They told me I was late, so I could pay for a dinner I never ate. My own son laughed while I stood in front of an $8,750 bill. My daughter-in-law smiled like she had already won. But what they didn't know, I was a secret shareholder of the restaurant, and I had 697,000 pesos worth of proof of every lie they told me. That night, I didn't just refuse to pay. I ended their entire plan in front of everyone. The air conditioning hit my face the moment I stepped through the glass doors of El Jardín Imperial. It was exactly 8:30 p.m. I remember checking the time twice. Because I've spent 68 years of my life being punctual. Always early. Always prepared. That's who I am. My brown leather handbag hung neatly from my arm, the one Arnulfo gave me 20 years ago. My wine-colored sweater made me feel put together without trying too hard. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. Just me. And then I saw the table. A large, long table at the back of the restaurant. Too many people. And almost no food left. Dirty plates. Half-empty wine glasses. Crumpled napkins. The smell of butter, garlic, and expensive wine still floating in the air like a joke I wasn't invited to hear. My daughter-in-law Valeria noticed me first. She looked perfect, of course. Black fitted dress, hair in soft waves, green eyes sharp and bright. She smiled like she had been waiting for this exact moment. But it wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind of smile people wear when they've already won. Oh, you finally arrived, she said lightly, almost sweet, almost mocking. You're late. Are you paying the bill? A couple of people at the table laughed. Yes? I heard my own son Sebastian say with a chuckle. She's always like this. So forgetful. How did you even end up late, Mom? That word mom felt different in his mouth. He didn't stand up. He didn't hug me. He just leaned back in his chair like I was an inconvenience that had arrived at the wrong time. Something in my stomach tightened. I pulled out my phone. Valeria's message was still there. Sugrita, anniversary dinner, 8:30 p.m. El Jardín Imperial. Don't be late. I looked up at the wall clock. 8:32 p.m. and suddenly, it clicked. Not like a thought. Like a crack of lightning splitting everything open. I hadn't arrived late. I had arrived exactly when they wanted me to. When the food was gone. When the laughter was done. When only the bill remained. The waiter approached me with a black leather folder. The bill. Ma'am. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. 8,750 pesos. Champagne, lobster, goat cheese with figs, raspberry desserts. The most expensive things on the menu. For a meal I never touched. I slowly closed the folder, and something inside me, something that had been sleeping for 3 years, began to wake up. Not anger yet. Something colder. Clearer. I lifted my hand. Marco Antonio, I said calmly. Could you come here, please? I saw Valeria's smile flicker for a fraction of a second. Just a crack. But I noticed. A man in a perfectly fitted suit walked over. Marco.
Antonio Ruiz, the manager, the son of my late colleague Mercedes, a man I had known since he was a child. Señora Reyes, he said respectfully. Good evening. Marco, I replied softly. What time did this table reserve? He didn't hesitate. 6 p.m. sharp. They arrived on time. Silence fell so fast it felt like the air had been cut. Sebastian straightened slightly. Valeria stopped smiling. And what time did they schedule me? I asked. Marco turned to me. 8:30 p.m., as far as I was informed. I nodded slowly. Exactly. The truth wasn't complicated anymore. It was laid bare. They had eaten without me, celebrated without me, and invited me only to pay. But Marco wasn't finished. Your permanent VIP table has been ready since 6 p.m., Señora. We were waiting for you. That was the moment the color drained from Valeria's face. Permanent VIP table, she repeated. Marco turned to her politely. Señora Reyes is a partner in this restaurant. She owns 15% of the shares. The silence that followed wasn't just heavy, it was crushing, and I realized something very clearly in that moment. This wasn't the beginning of my story. This was the end of theirs, but to understand that, you need to understand who I am. My name is Esperanza Soledad Reyes, and for 3 years, they called me forgetful, naive, old-fashioned. They were wrong. Completely wrong. I used to believe I was just a mother who worked too hard and loved too deeply. I raised Sebastian alone after cancer took his father. I worked in accounting for 40 years. Long hours, early mornings, no excuses. I buried my husband, paid the hospital bills, paid the debts, paid everything, and I never broke. Arnulfo once told me before he died, "Don't confuse kindness with weakness." I didn't understand him then, but I do now. Because after he was gone, I rebuilt everything from nothing. I invested. I worked. I saved. I bought properties. I paid off debts. I created income streams they never even knew existed. And I let them see none of it, because Valeria saw what she wanted to see. A lonely widow. A simple mother-in-law. An easy target. For 3 years, I let her believe it. Not because I was weak, because I thought love meant tolerance. I was wrong about that too. And I kept a record of everything. A deep red notebook. Every loan, every promise, every lie. 97,000 pesos. That's what they took from me, not all at once. Slowly. Like water eroding stone. The first time was the car. "Just an investment, Mom," Sebastian said. "We'll pay you back in a year." 80,000 pesos. Never returned. Then Valeria's business. Then the medical procedure. Then the wedding. Then the honeymoon. Then the emergencies. Each time the same words. "We'll pay you back." Each time, a lie. And I wrote it all down, every single time, until the notebook became heavier than my trust. The worst part wasn't the money, it was the way they laughed. "How cute you are, Suegrita," Valeria would say. So old school. They thought I didn't notice, but I noticed everything, every insult disguised as humor, every smile that wasn't real. Every time my home stopped feeling like mine, because they didn't just take my money, they took my house piece by piece, my curtains replaced without asking, my furniture moved, my belongings donated, even my mother's embroidered tablecloth disappeared, until one day I found something in the trash. Arnulfo's engagement ring, covered in scraps of food. Valeria had thrown it away. She thought it was cheap jewelry. I didn't scream. I didn't shout. I just held it in my hand for hours that night, and something inside me changed permanently. That was the night I called a detective. Rodrigo Taetex Police. Calm voice, sharp eyes. Find everything, I told him. Every transaction, every secret. He did. And what he brought me was worse than betrayal. It was planning. They had money. 20,000 pesos in savings, while asking me for more, while calling me stingy behind my back, while laughing about me in group chats. ATM with legs. Milk cow. Easy target. My own son laughed too. That broke something I didn't know could still break. And then I saw the plan. Written by Valeria. My house, step by step. Transfer ownership. Sell it, split the money. Million pesos. They weren't just using me. They were planning to erase me. So I planned something too. I called Marco, and I told him everything. Every humiliation, every theft, every lie. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he said only one thing. That is abuse. Yes, I replied, and it ends now. 3 days later, Valeria called me. Suegrita, dinner next Saturday. 8:30 p.m., El Jardín Imperial. I smiled. Of course, I said. They thought I was walking into the same trap, but I wasn't. I was walking into my exit. The night arrived. I dressed simply. Wine-colored sweater, calm hands, steady breath. And I whispered to Arnulfo before leaving, "Watch me." At 8:30 p.m., I arrived. Exactly on time. Exactly as always. The table was already destroyed with laughter and empty plates. Valeria smiled. "You're late." That was her mistake, because I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I simply said, no. And I opened my red notebook. The sound of the pages turning silenced the entire table. One by one, I said, and I read everything. Every loan, every betrayal, every peso. Sebastian tried to speak. I stopped him with a look. Valeria tried to justify herself. I kept going, until the entire table had no air left to breathe. Then I showed the messages, the jokes, the insults, the cruelty, and finally, I looked at my son. "This is how you see me?" I asked quietly. He broke. "Not in defense. In shame," but it was too late for shame. Valeria finally snapped. "We are family." "No," I said softly. "Family doesn't steal." Then I stood up. "I will not pay this bill." I looked at Marco. He stepped forward immediately. "Payment will be processed," he said calmly. "If insufficient, it will be divided among all guests." Panic spread across the table, and for the first time in 3 years, I walked, away without carrying their burden. Outside, the air felt different. Lighter. Mine again. 6 months have passed since that night, and everything has changed. They moved out the next day. Silently. No arguments left, just consequences. We signed legal agreements. They repay 450,000 pesos over time. They sold their car. They moved into a small apartment. And Sebastian started therapy. The first months were messy, then quieter, then honest. Valeria left him. That part didn't surprise me. What surprised me was the silence that followed her absence, and the space it created for truth. Last week, he paid the final installment, and he asked if we could have coffee someday. I haven't answered yet, because healing doesn't follow deadlines. Neither does forgiveness. My house is mine again. I repainted every wall. I planted new flowers. I adopted a dog named Luna, and I started a YouTube channel. I tell my story now. Not because it's easy, but because somewhere another woman needs to hear it. I used to think wealth was money. Now I know better. Wealth is dignity, wealth is boundaries, wealth is the ability to say no more, and mean it. I am Esperanza Soledad Reyes, and I am no longer anyone's mistake to use. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked out at the jacarandas. They were fully alive again, deep purple blossoms spilling over the garden like a memory that refused to fade. Arnulfo and I planted them together when Sebastian was just a baby. I remember how tired I was that day, how we laughed while digging into the soil with our bare hands because we couldn't afford proper tools. We did it anyway. That's always been my life. I took a sip of tea. Warm, calming, real. Luna rested her head on my foot, like she knew I needed grounding more than comfort. For the first time in years, my mornings didn't feel like survival. They felt like mine. But peace, I've learned, doesn't erase the past. It just lets you look at it without bleeding. I finally typed back, "No por ahora, pero gracias por pagar lo que debías." I stared at the message before sending it. Not harsh, not soft, just true. Then I hit send, and I didn't wait for a reply. Instead, I stood up and walked through my house. My house. That thought still felt new, even after 6 months. The second-floor room where Valeria once rearranged my life without permission was now painted white again. Clean, empty, reclaimed. I had turned it into something unexpected. A sewing room, a space I never thought I'd enjoy, but now I did. Threads, fabrics, quiet mornings where my hands worked while my mind rested. Funny how destruction makes room for creation. Downstairs, I opened the kitchen cabinets I had redesigned months ago. Everything had a place again. Nothing missing, nothing moved without my consent, no perfume I didn't recognize, no footsteps I didn't invite. Just silence that belonged to me. My phone rang once that afternoon. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something inside me, something sharper now, told me to. "Mama?" Sebastian's voice. It was smaller than I remembered. Not weak, just stripped. "I got your message," he said. I know. Silence stretched between us, the kind that used to terrify me. Now it just existed. "I don't expect things to go back," he continued. "I just wanted to hear your voice." I leaned against the kitchen counter. For a second, I almost saw him as a child again, barefoot, laughing, running through this same house without knowing what betrayal even meant. "You're hearing it," I said gently. Another pause. "I started therapy," he added quickly, like he was afraid I wouldn't believe him. "I go twice a week. I had to understand why I let things happen." I closed my eyes for a moment, because I already knew the answer, but hearing him say it mattered more than I expected. Good, I said simply. That word carried more weight than I intended. He exhaled on the other side of the line. I miss you, he said, and for the first time, I didn't feel pulled apart by that sentence. I just felt it. I know, I answered. No promises, no reopening of doors, just acknowledgement. When the call ended, I didn't cry. That surprised me most of all. Instead, I walked to the garden and sat on the bench Arnulfo used to sit on in the evenings. The wood was still slightly worn on one side. Memory has texture like that. It doesn't disappear just because you survive it. It stays, but it doesn't control you anymore. I opened my notebook. Not the red one this time, but a new one. Clean pages. No debt lists, no betrayals recorded like wounds, just plans. Travel ideas, book notes, channel scripts. Life. My phone buzzed again later that evening. This time it was Patricia, my lawyer. They've completed the 7th payment, she said. Everything is on schedule. Good, I replied. There was a short pause. And Sebastian? He called, I said. That's all. She didn't push. She understood something most people don't. Not every ending needs a reunion, some just need responsibility. After we hung up, I made dinner slowly, only for myself. That still feels strange sometimes. Cooking without obligation, eating without performance, living without being watched. When night arrived, I turned on the porch light and sat outside with Luna curled beside me. The air was warm, quiet, alive in a way that didn't demand anything from me. I thought about Valeria. I hadn't thought about her in days without anger. Now it was something closer to distance, like a name from a story that no longer belonged to me. She had taken so much time, so much energy, so much of my silence. But even she couldn't take the lesson, because the lesson had already rooted itself inside me. No one gets unlimited access to your life just because they are family. No one. Not even your child. That thought used to hurt me. Now it steadied me. Around midnight, I went upstairs to my study. The city lights of Mexico City flickered beyond the window like scattered stars. I opened my laptop. My YouTube channel had grown again. 7,000 subscribers. Then 48,000? Comments from women I had never met. I left my toxic family because of you. I learned to say no for the first time. I stopped paying for people who don't respect me. I read them slowly, not as validation, as confirmation that pain, when spoken clearly, doesn't stay trapped inside one life. It moves, it teaches, it protects someone else. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. Arnulfo's old clock ticked softly on the wall. Same rhythm as always. Time doesn't change its pace for anyone, but people can change how they walk through it. I used to think I was losing my family. Now I understand something different. I wasn't losing them. I was seeing them clearly for the first time. And clarity is its own kind of freedom. Before going to bed, I stood in front of the mirror. Years old. Gray strands in my hair. Lines around my eyes that tell stories no one can erase. Not broken. Not naive. Not what they thought. Just real. I am Esperanza Soledad Reyes, I said quietly. And this time, the words didn't feel like a reminder. They felt like ownership. Outside, the jacarandas moved gently in the night wind. And for the first time in a very long time, I slept without carrying anyone else's weight. If this story shocked you, hit like. Comment below. What would you do if your own family treated you like this? Subscribe for more real-life emotional revenge stories that feel more shocking than fiction.